The road to a new trial for Alex Murdaugh, well, it could be a long one, if he even gets there. That is the question that we are asking today, as Judge Toal already said, nope, I don't think so, but more so punted it down the road to another appellate court at some point in time, possibly. Here to discuss, Bob Motta, defense attorney, host of the podcast Defense Diaries. Bob, what is the next steps for Alex Murdaugh going forward?
Appeal.
Yeah.
Same thing. So that, that issue will and Judge Toll knew it.
Hmm.
Like, she said it at the end of the, when she kinda went through her little soliloquy at the end there. She was very firm in her position, which, if you saw her rulings going in, I knew she was gonna deny it.
Hmm.
Like, she made it extremely difficult for them to be able to meet their burden, them being the defense, and she selected, what the standard that was going to apply,
Hmm.
which was the defense was arguing any any contact with the jury is grounds for a retrial,
Hmm.
and she was, "No, that's not what I believe it is. I believe that it has to be shown that the contact with the jury affected their final outcome or verdict."
Hmm.
Like, and when she said that, I knew, and then you had, like, kind of the one juror, Juror Z, or I think they referred
Yeah.
to it. When Juror Z comes in and says, "Well, yeah, it affected the outcome, like, it affected my vote," you
That's
know?
my yeah, that's the argument here is I thought they reached the bar of
I
what
know.
they needed to do, because the bar was, did it affect the vote? And then it felt like Toll kind of pulled the goalpost back a little bit, going, well, what was Becky's intent? Does it matter what Becky's intent was, if that's what the outcome of this choice was? I mean, if you drove through a crowd of people with your car and you run a bunch of them over, but your intent was simply to get to the Panda Express down the road, does it matter that you ran over those people? I would think it does matter that you ran over those people, even if it wasn't your intent.
I agree. I agree. And I think ultimately Toll was of the mindset that she's kicking this can down the road,
Yeah.
man. Like, she wasn't, and she's got a very, very storied past. Like, she's a hell of a jurist. I mean, she was on the Supreme Court. She was
Hmm.
the Chief Justice of the South Carolina Supreme Court for a good period of time,
Yeah.
and then an associate judge on the Supreme Court. So she's a very learned woman,
Hmm.
and extremely experienced. And I think she made the decision she's gonna let the higher courts deal with it. I mean, she
Yeah.
made her rulings, and she was standing by them,
Did she already
knowing
have
damn
her
well it was gonna get kicked up. Like, she knows it.
did she already have this decision made even prior to going into it? And I think that that's a big thing, because yeah, very learned woman, very intelligent, has tons of experience, very well respected. And I guess that's kind of where I'm surprised, just kind of as a layman, of like, you're really good at this. What you said and what you did really doesn't reflect that.
Right. I know. It's I think for kinda I felt the same way about the trial judge, and like, I think there exists a concept with trial judges that understand that they would rather be overturned on appeal than be the bad guy at that level or bad gal at that level and
Yeah.
make a decision that is not going to be popular with the public at large. I mean, I know it's not supposed to factor in, but
Yeah.
again, they're all human. We're all human. It does factor in. I think ultimately, yeah, I think she absolutely knew going in that day. I mean, she ruled from the bench.
Hmm.
She didn't take it under advisement. And she couldn't have known that Juror Z was going to come in there and say, with, like, Like, I don't think that there was gonna be anything that was going to be done in that courtroom that day that was gonna change her decision.
Yeah.
So, my gut is, yeah, she fully knew what the way she was gonna go. I mean, when you rule from the bench like that, without taking her advisement, that tells you the judge was decided going into the hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about Juror Z for a second, because I mean, it is rather interesting the fact that we had one out of the 12 jurors that seemed to have a very different recollection of what occurred in that jury room and the interactions with Becky. Everyone else saying, no, these things did not happen. I did not affect my verdict because I don't remember her ever saying these sort of things to me. Is that odd that you're going to have one that has such a different recollection of the events that took place?
I mean, kind of, it really is. It kind of goes to that thing where I think we were talking about a few episodes ago where you're
Hmm.
like, you get that one juror who's like, oh, yeah, they formulate the plan, the money making plan.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna get some interview money here out of this thing. And then because it's to have all the other jurors say that it didn't happen is weird, right?
Yeah. At
I,
the very and I know nothing about Jersey. I'm not making an accusation that they're doing anything improper, but it is odd. I mean, and it certainly was worth speculating on, like we did the other week. Of well, I mean, there's got to be some incentive here if you're going to be the one that's going to try and hang or change the verdict of the Alex Murdaugh trial, and you're the one
right.
who comes out and says these statements, but it still didn't work. That being said, though, this is going to get punted down now to an appellate court. Is it going to be the same sort of process again with all of the jurors coming back in, or are they going to use the existing testimony from this for the appellate court to make their decision?
That's right. It'll be now no witnesses at the appellate level. It all is from the record. So like they'll rule on the record and
Hmm.
apply the law. So yeah, no, it will like this evidentiary hearing was one and done.
Okay.
I mean, theoretically, what could happen is the appellate court could say, all right, we've reviewed the record. We believe that Judge Toal applied the wrong standard, and we're kicking it back down for another evidentiary hearing.
Hmm.
You know, so I mean that could happen. Because he's still got his direct appeal as well. Because
Yeah.
this was really a collateral issue.
Hmm.
I mean, kind of, in that all the things that they'll be arguing about in his direct appeal, whether or not Newman went too far in allowing the financial crimes in, and that went on for 3 weeks. Like all those different issues will be brought up in his direct appeal. So this one, will probably be, I'm assuming, lumped in there,
Hmm.
or they'll just appeal this decision on its own.
Yeah.
Oh,
That being said, and knowing what you know and doing what you do, where do you think this is going to end up? Do you, in your opinion, your conjecture on this, do you think at some point in this process, Alec Murdaugh is going to end up with a new trial, or is the decision of Toll going to stand?
I mean, if they're gonna do the right thing, as much as nobody wants it in terms of cost and going through it again, I mean, to me, it's a very, very slippery slope to
Yeah.
allow for a clerk or anybody to have conversations with the jurors. I mean, it's verboten. It's not allowed. Can't do it. Like, I mean, the judges give speeches to the jurors, when they're sitting in the jury box. Like, look, the lawyers are going to avoid you like the plague. Because not because they don't like you, because we cannot even have the
Mhm.
appearance of impropriety, let alone actual impropriety.
Sure.
And to me, short of somebody coming up with some evidence that Juror Z is making this shit up out of whole cloth, it's I don't know how you don't give him a new trial.
Yeah.
Like, because you've then set a precedent that it's okay that there's a certain amount of communication that it's allowed
Mhm.
to happen with the jury.
You
How do you
can't
do
have that.
that?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
can't happen, dude. It changes the entire system.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like I'm hoping that the appellate court does it right, not because I like Murdoch, because he's a
Yeah.
giant piece of shit, but because I care about the Constitution. I care about how the system works and operates, and that is a very slippery slope to have precedent out there saying that a certain amount of contact, especially of that ilk, where she's saying things.
Yeah.
It's not just like, "Oh, what do you want for lunch?" Oh, I mean, obviously, you're gonna always have a bailiff or a clerk that's gonna tend to the jury. This is different.
Mhm.
This was her talking about the case.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I hope the appellate court kicks it back down for a rear hearing, for like an actual hearing with with the proper standard. Because I agree with the defense. Any communication regarding the case with the jury is improper and call for a retrial. Like that was the defense's, that was their position in terms of the standard, and I agree with them. And I think that should be the standard. Like why do we need to make any kind of rule that makes it allowable for people in positions of power to be discussing anything with the jury?
Mhm.
Like no one's going to be able to make an argument to me that's going to make that okay
Yeah.
or make it make sense. It's like it's not allowed for a reason.
Hey, it's Tony Brueski. If you like the podcast, be sure to like, subscribe, and press that bell so you don't miss any of our updates on the cases we're following for you right here at the Hidden Killers podcast from True Crime Today. And thanks